Great, thanks for joining us at the summer camp for e-learning. For those of us who sent our kids to science camp, this is the e-learning camp for bad children. I'm here from Kineo. My name is Stephen Walsh. I'm a co-founder of Kineo. I spent a long time around e-learning. The last few years I've spent more time doing marketing than e-learning, which has made me think again really about e-learning and why marketing has got a lot to do with it. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Why should we in the learning community care about marketing? The first reason is a public service campaign. Think of the children. Thanks to Tom Coleman from Articulate, borrowed this slide from him. The idea of children growing up and being excited about taking boring e-learning. There is great threat that we pose to the learning world if we don't address the boring epidemic that's associated with what we do in e-learning. Took this from Meme Generators, great site for creating memes. Ask that question: why e-learning? Why? Why do you cause so much boredom and anxiety? Why do you confound so many people? I should point out this is how a marketing person might design this poster. An e-learning designer might say, "If only I'd read the instruction text, I could have clicked back, selected a different option, and then clicked next to move forward." So sometimes we're a little bit rooted in our own e-learning language. So it's a serious point there, though, is that with all of the accusations that's leveled, particularly at compliance e-learning, can we do better to make it more engaging and more interesting? My view is we need to really change how we think about doing it. We need to change our view about what learning design is all about. My thought is we need to change the job description, really. As learning designers, we're quite rooted in the science and the worthy pedagogy of learning design. So you can choose to be ADDIE men: analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation. All very worthy, very important. But maybe there's a different type of person you could be. Instead of being ADDIE men, we could be, anyone want to fill in the blank? Come with me, mad men. Okay, so why are we quite intrigued by this? Well, because Mad Men have really shown us a little bit about what marketing and advertising can do. Now, there's an accusation that you can easily level, which is it's all about glitz and glamour and style. Is it really, though? Or is there more to it than that? What I want to do is just ask a few questions about guessing the job description. I just took a few words from a few different job descriptions and see if we can compare them, with apologies to Vernon Kay, if I'm prepared to give him an apology. Targeting audiences through the right channels and techniques. Attracting and converting prospects. Engaging by any means necessary, whether that's being shocking, provocative, funny, informative. Creating sustaining campaigns, not one-off events. All to change behaviour and get results. Is that a description of a learning job? Actually, that's all from a marketing job. That's what marketing people do all day, every day. They're professionals and experts in that. I think for a long time we've kind of been in different rooms at other ends of the corridor thinking down here in learning we're really just trying to get on with the business of designing interactions. We're not really in the marketing game. I think we're more in it than we think we are, and we need to be. It's easy for us in learning perhaps to look at marketing and before we start this love affair, maybe be a little bit suspicious. So all this time we wanted the same thing, but maybe we viewed marketing as being a little bit shallow, being a little bit about glitz, being a little bit about just whack up a poster and that's marketing. Actually, there's a little bit more to it than that. It's not just marketing in general. I want to talk specifically about content marketing. Content marketing is not like those other marketing girls. She cares about the relationship. So what is content marketing? Well, there's already a Content Marketing Institute, even though the term's only been around for a couple of years. These things emerge very, very quickly. Content marketing, I think, is much, much closer to our hearts in the learning world. It's about content. It's about creating and distributing relevant and valuable content to attract and acquire audiences with the objective of driving profitable customer action. So the idea of content marketing is that the content itself is what attracts the learner. It's not about promoting something else. The content itself carries a message. That for us in learning, I think, is a really, really powerful message. And it took me a long time to realize this, is what we are trying to do in learning design is actually content marketing. We're trying to engage people through the message. Someone used the phrase a long time ago, everyone is only one click from the door. What are we going to do to keep people engaged at all times in our interactions? Three things that content marketing tries to do is turn prospects into fans. It makes no assumption that when we go and approach someone to say, please engage with this learning experience, that they care, that they're interested, that it's important to them. That's our job, is to try to convince them to care about this. Thank you. Yeah. Trying to do it through a wide range of different channels. marketing professionals will tell you there's no one size that fits all. It's not about a flyer, or it's not about a desktop leaflet. It's not even about a video. You've got to go to where people hang out. You've got to use whatever channels those might be they social media, be that LinkedIn, Google+, intranet, discussion forums, whatever's working in your organization. By any means necessary is the mantra of the content marketing person. And a sustained campaign, recognizing that a one-off event is not going to do it. Content marketer told me recently, you've got to say something 10, 15, 20 times until you are literally sick of saying it before there's any chance that the message has got through to somebody who just doesn't have it on the same radar as you do. So it's about being relentless and about being continually focused and getting that message across. Now, it's all very well engaging in content marketing when you've got a really exciting product that you want to sell. We're very lucky that often we're dealing with exciting smartphones or new pieces of technology working for clients like Nikon or Canon. In those situations, often the product just does its own marketing. All you have to do is say, look at it, it's great, and kind of get out of the way. Much, much more difficult with a subject like compliance, which is why I wanted to talk a little bit more about compliance. Distinctly unsexy. Compliance has various properties. Nobody actually wants to do compliance e-learning. Everybody has to do compliance e-learning. And we generally in the learning department end up going into this kind of parent-to-child mode where we say, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? You have to do it by next Friday. You must do it. You must pass. Otherwise, you're going to be in big trouble. So you default into that mode. And my question is there a better way? Because we know that parent-to-child tone isn't always a great way to get results. It might get you a short-term result. You might end up bullying enough people into passing the assessment. But are you really, really going to change behavior? Is it going to stick with them, or is it just going to go out the window? They'll forget about it for 12 months until you remind them, it's a year since you did it, please do it again. So what can we do? What can we learn from content marketing to try and make a difference? I've tried to adhere to 3 things. There's always 3 things. But these 3 are, you've got to campaign. You've got to campaign to get behavior change. You've got to design for engagement at every moment during the interaction, and you've got to embed it to get results. I just want to talk a little bit in the abstract about each of those, and then look at a real example where we've tried to put all 3 of those in place. Campaigning for change. You've got to campaign everywhere. The place where you can't just run your campaign from is inside the LMS. By the time someone's gone to the LMS, you've already won them. You've already converted them from a prospect into someone who actually believes I need to do something. There's no point starting your campaign in there. As someone said, that's like putting a billboard in the woods. It can look fantastic, but you're not going to people where you need to get them. So the campaign needs to live outside it. It needs to be, as someone said, liberated from the LMS and live in the channels where you're going to get to people. Those could be in any number of places. I've just picked 3 public service campaign posters which show examples of trying to engage for change through campaign. Top one is a US one, Smokey the Bear. Any of you who spent time in a US national park might recognize. He's everywhere trying to tell you not to start a fire, not to burn down Yellowstone Park. One on the right, drugs are illegal, talking about them isn't. That's Talk to Frank, the drug awareness campaign. Bottom left, a 30-year campaign by government to try to get people to fasten their seatbelts. A national compliance campaign. How do they do it? They didn't just put up one poster, a relentless number of campaigns, different styles. That one has quite a provocative statement. How would you like your face smashed in? It's almost attempting an edgy kind of humor to try to get across an incredibly serious point. The reason I picked those 3 is they all do something slightly different. The one in the top left is kind of parent to child. It's a little bit patronizing maybe. But who is that aimed at? Is it aimed at adults? It's actually aimed at the children of adults who go to the park, and the idea is you goad your parents into good behavior by saying the bear is not setting fire to the woods, why are you leaving rubbish behind? So that one is avowedly parent to child. This one is more trying to come alongside people who might be thinking about drugs and try not to patronize them, but try to speak in their voice. This one is taking a much more provocative tone, saying we're going to be quite in your face about fastening your seatbelt. The point is, theme and style matters. You've got to understand what your audience is. And any marketing person, if you start to talk to them, they don't say, what are your learning objectives? They say, who are you trying to reach? Where are they? What messages are going to get through to them? What campaigns can we run? What channels will we use? All of those really, really valuable questions that have got really very little to do with setting good learning objectives. That stuff has to follow. That stuff has to be there. But it's not what you lead with. So getting the theme and the style is right. Then designing for engagement. This is not just the bit in the middle. I've just put up a few examples, and we'll show some later on, of different pieces of engagement design that we've done for various clients. The point, though, is I think sometimes when we think about marketing and learning, we think you do the marketing bit, you lead people to it, and then you do the e-learning. It's not about marketing, then learning. The point about content marketing is the campaign is the content. Right from the first moment of engagement with learners, you are trying to deliver valuable messages to them. The message is not, go and look at the e-learning, and then when you're finished, do the test. It's right from the start. We are trying to deliver a valuable message to you. So every engagement that you have, as marketeers say, every touch point you have with a customer, you've got to be conveying something of value to them. If you're not doing that, you're not doing content marketing, and people will just run away and say, well, this is just blather. It's got nothing to do with the message you're trying to deliver. So the same design principles apply, and I think this is where we can learn a lot from the ad men and the madmen, is keeping it short, keeping it focused, using humor, thinking about every single screen that we do, every interaction that we do. People are one click away from the door. How do we keep them engaged and focused? And then embedding for results, lest we forget. This is a forgetting curve. I forget who it's from. Little joke there for the Ebbinghaus, the forgetting curve. So this basically says all it takes is a matter of days from the first engagement with a piece of content before you start to forget it. Natural human behavior. Loads of other messages come at us. Remembering a piece of compliance e-learning 3 days, 3 weeks, even 3 hours later, really, really difficult to do unless you're being reminded about it or you're actually implying it. You're actually weaving it into your behavior. So we've got to keep this in mind. We've got to realize the end of our learning experience is really just the beginning of the campaign. We've got to keep going. A key word that a content marketer used to me recently, and I really think it's such an important word for us, is being relentless. You never, ever stop trying to communicate and trying to affect change. Doing very little is fine as long as you do it very often. So having a campaign that you think about, what's going to happen next week, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 90 days out? How are we going to keep delivering this message? Especially with compliance e-learning. You often in organizations, you go for that big bang where you say, May is Data Protection Month. Everybody do your e-learning in May. And then nothing happens until next May. So you have that spike of interest and then that massive fall off. How do you avoid that? How do you get a smooth curve of behavior change throughout? It's being relentless. Being a guerrilla as well. So guerrilla marketing, not a new term. Again, by using any means necessary. How do you worm your way into the channels where people get reminders? This doesn't have to be snazzy. I've seen lots of organizations just use simple text messages to remind people, there's a valuable message. Have you made sure you lock your computer before you go on lunch? Delivering those messages an hour before lunch is more effective than putting them on the last screen of a piece of e-learning and hoping that people will remember them. So finding whatever messages that will work, doing something different via email, just reminding people as well. Finding Elvis. So again, this is borrowing from a marketeer term. Finding someone in the organization who's got a force of personality. You can say, I believe in this. I think you should believe in this. Lots of organizations we work with will have a very, very strong personality. Might be the CEO, might not be. Might be someone else who's just viewed as a visionary, someone who's really, really powerful, gets behind statements. Getting them involved in your content marketing campaign, beginning, middle, and end, is really, really valuable, especially if they're looked up to, if they're respected as a peer, someone who says, this works for me, it will work for you. And also being responsive, being agile. Marketers know you might run a campaign, it might flop. You might do a poster that just dies and nobody pays any attention to it. So pull it down and change it. Don't over-invest in the campaign. Don't assume on day one you're going to have all the answers for the next 12 months. You've got to be open-minded and think about what's going to what's needed to change. Key to that is tracking what's working as well. So using tools like Google Analytics or Deliver, or anything that will tell you what are people looking at, even using just simple tag codes to say, where did you find out about it? The first question you often get from marketers is, where did you find out about this piece of learning? Was it through the poster? Was it through the banner on the internet page? Was it that email? That data is oxygen to us doing content marketing. We must know what channels are working in our organization, be able to go towards those and turn off the ones that aren't working. So that's incredibly important for embedding results. So all fine in principle, how does this look for real? So I just wanted to shift gears and just show you a little bit of what happens inside an organization when you try to use a compliance learning campaign. We're very, very lucky to have worked with the people at Warner Brothers in the US to create this compliance learning campaign. Just give you a little bit of background about the project. Like every organization, they care a huge amount about data security and intellectual property. For them, IP is movies. Getting that stuff leaked is massively expensive and potentially erodes their whole business in a way that isn't true for a lot of other organizations. Their business is content. So content walking out the door by accident or by design, incredibly risky to them. Although it happens all the time. It happens to them. They have major problems about this. They wanted to get people to take compliance policies seriously and empower people to take action, to do something about it. One of the first questions that we asked and that they asked of us is, you need to understand our audience. We make movies. We don't do boring. So a piece of tedious e-learning or a worthy but dull treatise on why data compliance is important, it's not going to cut it. It's going to get ignored. Even if it's very good, it could well get ignored because there's just so many other messages coming at us, which is not unique to Warner Brothers. I think that's true of all of us. So many people trying to vie for our attention inside the organization, outside it. You've really, really got to stand out if you have a hope of getting a message across. And related to that, the idea that something one-off is not going to stick. This is not an event. This has got to be a program-managed campaign that's got lots of different elements going on within it. So what we did together was we designed a change campaign, which has content at its heart. 3 main components to it. Campaigning for change from the start. So it had a strong lead-in campaign. The theme for it was put yourself in the picture. So, you know, self-ashamedly played on the whole concept of movies. It's very buzzy being involved with Warner Brothers because they get to do such fun stuff and it's very exciting being around the movies and everything. Slight advantage? Maybe, but we'll come on to talk about different ways of doing it later. Using the put yourself in a picture campaign gave us a bit of a hook. So creating some characters, using video promos, I'll show you one in a second, posters and flyers, branded sweets, so they created sweets and left them all over people's desks, themed menus in the canteens, again, by any means necessary. This stuff isn't massively expensive, but it really, really gets in your face. You've got to be at the point where people are saying, all right, I get your damn compliance e-learning, I'll do it. You've got to kind of wear people down like that. Designing for engagement. At the heart of it is e-learning, but it's e-learning that's designed to deliver on the campaign promise. So the risk is you can't have that exciting campaign and then fall off a cliff with a piece of e-learning. It's got to sustain. It's got to be part of the whole campaign. So it's about policies, it's about regulation, but it's also got video trailers that lead into it. It's got some competitions that go with it as well. And then embedding for results. I'll come on to why there are 2 superheroes sitting in a golf cart in a few seconds. But you've got to ask for change, and then you've got to reward people who do it and give them support. So there's a continued campaign rewarding completion as well. I'll just show you a little bit of this, how we go. I said getting a theme for a campaign is really, really important. And for them, of course, it was straight to central casting. So having a couple of characters, we decided that this was the best way to try to personalize this. I think this is really true of a lot of compliance issues. You have this faceless data security is important, comply, Big Brother. Trying to root it in real people, trying to do real things, who make mistakes, who are imperfect, is a good way to be, I think, slightly charming about it and to try to come alongside people. Try to avoid that parent to child, we know it all, you don't know it, we'll teach you how to do this, and show people who are human and who are fallible. So it's a great way of introducing just a little bit of comedy. So we created these characters, Barclay and Fisk, who are Warner Brothers employees, who are well-meaning, but a little bit haphazard about how they go about doing things. And we put them in various different situations. So there's a multi-channel campaign. A couple of posters here, so using Warner Brothers movies and just playing with them. Fortunately, they allow you to do this kind of thing inside Warner Brothers, but 2 fellas instead of good fellas, showing them portrayed in different ways. There's also the use of the trailer campaign. So I'll show you a couple of the trailers that were created for this, just to give you a sense of it. I'll warn you in advance, this trailer does contain zombies. You hear that okay?
Ted left his iPad in a cab.
45th and Winton. I was running late for that Thai restaurant.
Oh, they have the best Shinkaya Pak Tong there.
I know, right?
Guys, focus. So he lost his iPad. Problem is, a tablet like that carries so much information, it's like a personal computer.
Which is why you have to know the mobile policy and always lock your screen with a passcode.
Unlocking it every time seemed like a hassle, but now I wish I would.
One of the pieces of information stored on the tablet was a production schedule, which is how the location of the True Blood shoot worked its way onto the internet.
So every Uber fan who ever wanted to be an extra on the show showed up for their big break.
And since it was kinda Ted's fault, he got to be the one to tell them they didn't actually need any extras that day.
It was horrible.
Next time, call the help desk. The second any mobile device goes missing, they may be able to remotely prevent others from accessing information on it.
Not doing that can really come back to bite you in the...
I'll stop it there in the interest of time. Could you hear that okay? Sorry, I know it was a little bit difficult here. You got the idea anyway. It kind of leads on the visual. So that's a piece of content marketing. but I would contend it's also a piece of learning. There is a message in there. We use techniques that we should be using all the time in learning. Has a story, has characters, gets to the point quite quickly, uses humor, but it's not trivial. There is a point in there that, to use a well-worn phrase, has gone viral within Warner Brothers. Very easy to share, distribute a link to that, get people excited about it. I'll anticipate the question, is it expensive? Yes. Is it worth it? They think so. That message embeds far better than a dry piece of learning objective trying to make the same point. So you got to pick your spots. You're not going to do that 50 times and blow your annual training budget. But for big ticket items where you really want to make a difference, where you really care about changing behavior, I think it is worth it. Going on from that, then of course, three of those were developed. The e-learning has got to deliver on that. It can't fall off a cliff after leading with that. So a couple of things that we try to do in the e-learning design: build on that campaign approach, learn a few things from the movies, a couple of design principles, following through on the heroes and villains concept. So we kept those characters, but put them in a slightly different context, told a story, got people to get involved, used humor, used a happy ending, and left people with a message. The concept of a franchise reboot, for anyone who follows movies, is becoming more and more usual. So we took those Barkley and Fisk characters who'd been realized through 3 different movies following the style you looked at there, and recast them as data protection superheroes. So they moved on from being the haphazard guys into putting on their cape and tights, quite literally, with an evil, sinister enemy, Dr. Zilla Zombot. So is the tongue planted firmly in cheek? Absolutely here. People know that this is just using a bit of humor, but it's still trying to get the point across. You choose a story and you earn the right. I'll just show you a little bit of the intro of the e-learning just to give you a sense of how it flows. Oops. Guys, getting that audio coming through?
More than ever, we need information security superheroes like you to join the fight to protect privacy and safeguard our precious information. During the next half hour, you'll learn from the best and earn your own cape and tights to become a full-fledged data defender. As a Data Defense League cadet, you'll join in the never-ending battle to keep our information secure and help Barkley and Fisk defeat the malicious Dr. Zilla Zombot. The time is now. The threat is real. Our mission is clear. So get ready. Your learning adventure awaits. Welcome to the Superhero Academy.
Yeah, so this is about getting, almost suspiciously excited about compliance e-learning, but there is a point to it. It's overblown. Absolutely, it's overblown. Intentionally overblown. That really is the guy who does the DVD intros as well. He really does actually speak like that. Just to give you a quick sense of what it's like inside the e-learning, I'll just show you one quick screen.
Robert's email says urgent. Should he open it? What will happen if Robert clicks on the link?
Should I? I probably don't have time. All right, I'll do it. And it goes on from there. So a lot of little tricks used to try to get engagement throughout there, but there is a serious message to it. As you can see, it borrows on comic book style, again, very much at the heart of what Warner Brothers does. 3 episodes within it, and this is the homepage. It's kind of a comic book menu here. The final story is locked. You've got to complete it all to get there. It's a proper assessment. It does all the right things. Makes sure you understand it, creates scenarios, puts you in real situations. Lots of little short episodic moments within it. We try to use humor where possible. I think it's just so important to do it throughout. People have got to do things. You've got to deal with your standard scenarios and figure out how you're going to address it. You get scored as you go. Moving on to embedding for results. I won't play this to you because if I do, it won't get out of your head for the rest of the day and you will kill me for getting this phone number embedded in your mind. But there is a very annoying jingle that just repeats the phone number that you call over and over again. That's the compliance hotline. So it uses little tricks for that, so dial M for reminder. But it's that idea of stretching from the designing for engagement into actually embedding for results within the e-learning. Embedding for results, that third step, didn't stop at the learning design. They went way beyond that. So they will make you learn about this. And if you refuse, they will find you and they will kill you if you don't take this seriously. So they have various things all over their lots. So they have screenings of new movies. They inserted some of the video trailers that we looked at before the movie. So you've got a captive audience, quite literally, of people looking at a movie waiting to see Superman, and instead they see 2 minutes about compliance e-learning. They might throw popcorn at the screen, but you're certainly going to get their attention. They also went way beyond that. So they took those characters, the two guys in capes, and did flash mobs. So it's kind of hard to see there, but that's someone actually being tackled to the ground to see if they've done their compliance e-learning or not. Quite an aggressive technique, but maybe one to consider. They use golf carts, data completion wheels. Again, by any means necessary. No shame whatsoever in pushing as many messages as possible through all these channels. So scroll, so you literally did earn your cape and tights. If you go through this module, you get a funny little poster that shows cape and tights, gives you a scroll, says you've done it. Then regular tips and updates. They drip feed more information. They've created 3 more of these movies to push out as well, and sending out gifts to people too. The results have been really great. Some anecdotal feedback around it. I really liked this word, unsnoozy. Something to aim for, I think, when you're designing compliance e-learning, if you can get it to be unsnoozy. But the whole point is people saying, you know, you take something that on the surface is quite boring, and you're doing something quite interesting around it. Good scores, I won't labor these points, but in terms of getting people to understand this is important, absolutely got through to it. But it's about changing behavior. What happened? Often we get asked this question, how do you know compliance e-learning is working? An interesting trend, I think, is the spike in calls to the hotline, which they definitely got. A lot of the time it's false positives. It's people worrying about something there's actually nothing to worry about. But that's good. That shows that people are listening, at least they're reporting about something that might be an issue. If it's nothing, then we don't have anything to worry about. But they definitely saw that. Chief Privacy Officer getting a lot more calls around this stuff. Another side effect I thought was useful was giving people a language. So often talking about, if you have to say to a colleague, I think you're actually in breach of our data security policy, I can kind of guess what kind of reaction you're going to get. They created this language talking about Barclay and Fisk moments. So if you see someone walk away from their laptop and leave it unsecure or leave a USB on the table, people are starting to say to each other, I think you're having a Barclay and Fisk moment, which is a kind of jocose way of making it okay to talk about this stuff and following through on that meme that's established through the learning as well. So creating kind of a new vocabulary for data security in the organization. And of course, the last trick from the movie, you've got to leave room for a sequel. So we've created a new set of learning with Warner Bros. Now. The 2 characters have gone back to the 40s, so there's kind of a LA Confidential film noir style that's all about social media, using social media channels safely as well. So the characters live on in a new guise and a new role. So this campaign keeps rolling. I think it will probably never end. There will always be a new way of treating these characters with lots of short moments within it. So maybe it's not the Oscars. It won a Brandon Hall Gold Award, and I'm sure many of you watched this on Sky, the IAPP Privacy Innovation Awards. Massively, it's not really, but if you're in privacy, it's a big deal. This is the Oscar of the privacy award industry, and it won a big award, which meant a lot to Warner Brothers. And that's got nothing to do with learning. That was an award for who's made a difference in the industry. So it's interesting to take it out of a learning context and say this has actually made a difference. So that's just kind of, I suppose, a quick tour of how you can take those 3 points: campaigning for change, designing for engagement, and embedding for results, which I think are really, really key to all e-learning, particularly compliance learning, and put them into action. So I'll stop there. Happy to take any questions. Thank you very much. We're right behind you there on stand 29. If you want to come over.